Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. Sorry about the Spurs Talk Show. Sorry about the delay to getting the show started. Then we're having some camera issues and some Connor connectivity issues. He's dropping out, but he should be back in a second. I hope you're all happy and healthy, doing the things you love, with those you love to do them with. I'm here with Lubo even, obviously, and Connor's coming back in a second. Look, it's another day of news, another 100 other items to talk about. We've got Maquarie loan facilities. We've got apparently news speculating that Tottenham are firing Rothchilds Bank as part of the clear up. We have apparently speculation that Tottenham are going to prioritise some monsters in the January transfer window, and we are going to talk about it all right now, alongside a bit of other news, views and clues. I hope you're all capable of doing me some favours. Smashing the like button for me is the best place to start with that routine. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell and drop your comments thick and fast. Let us know where you're at with everything that's going on, because there's a hell of a lot of speculation, not a lot of clarity. I'm on conspiracy theory mode, and I'm going to be, telling these people why they're entirely wrong about Daniel Levy and why they might be right about ENIC as we get through the show. Before we get into it, though, also, you've got the option of listening back to this on the podcast circuit, guys. We're trying to get those channels up. So if you are on Apple Pods or Amazon or Spotify, where you can actually watch it, then please do follow us over there. Give us a 5-star rating. Links are in the description. And lastly, the sponsors of today's show are the wonderful people over at okjersey.com. You can see the QR code just down here. Give that a scan, or just go to okjersey.com, where you'll find the best value shirts in town. I have got it on official notice from them that they are going to be bringing in the yellow shirt very, very soon. And you can get for the sort of grand total price of about £15-16, something like that. But you can also get 8% off at checkout with discount code Sean, SEAN, as you can see on the screen. Go get yourself some Christmas presents. Go and make yourself favourite uncle, funkle, as well as I like to be thought of in my extended family, by bringing them the greatest shirts in the game, i.e. Tottenham Hotspur. But do make sure you go up a couple of sizes just to be on the safe side. Lubo, Connor, how are you boys? Lubo, I'll start with you, mate. You well?
All good, thanks. Good to be back on.
Good to see you, mate.
And a good start, a good opening opening bit of music there, wasn't it? Introducing the show.
Was it?
Brand new. I haven't seen that before.
What was? Oh, what the intro video? You mean?
The intro. It must be.
That's been around since 2021, mate. I just don't use it very often. That's all. Don't worry about that.
I just thought a new start with ENIC.
Yeah.
A new intro.
Is it a new start or is it full storms? I'm not entirely sure. Connor, how are you, my man? What's going on with you, buddy? You well?
Yeah, I'm good. I think I'm looking forward to proper football being back.
Yeah.
This weekend. We're getting closer. It's been a more exciting international break than normal, because obviously we've had all of this news with Levy, etc. But even I'm getting sick of speaking about the blokes in suits.
Yeah,
looking forward to the football coming back. But I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Good to have you, mate. Before we get into it, guys, I was having this, Phil Panee, woo, that guy. We love him to pieces. He gave me a call earlier. It must have been stuck in traffic for him to think of me. I was having a chat with him, and I was having a chat with conversation last night with Jay as well. And I wanted to just ask you guys about the general mood in the fan base currently, because I feel like those that were patient, that were enjoying the journey, that weren't too worried about the 17-year trophy gap, and then the other side, the Lubos and the Connors of this world, who always talked about it, and it was like the biggest reason, the biggest problem, the biggest frustration. We got the monkey off our back. And then everything that's gone on since, like the helter-skelter, hectic ups and downs of the transfer window, missing out on the Eze, missing out on Gibbs White, getting a couple of worldies in at the end there, then the Levy thing. I don't know if it's just a me thing right now, but I feel like the energy in the fan base is very difficult to discern. I don't feel like there's a hell of a lot of momentum. I don't think like everyone is fully on board this season yet, on the back of what was a wonderful end to last season. And first of all, I don't know if you agree with that. And if you do, I'm trying to figure out what the reason is why. Is it because the trophy came alongside a terrible season? Is it because we haven't seen the fruits of that final couple of weeks of the window, where we got, you know, that these worldy players in that haven't yet played in a Tottenham shirt? Is it because the 2 wins started well, but then the Bournemouth game kind of took the wind out of our sails, and then we've had 2 weeks break, and the international break just kills all momentum? I just feel like not a high enough percentage of the fan base are in the same mindset as they were in that 250,000 person parade on that Friday after the Europa League win. And I'm trying to figure out, is it just me that feels that way, or do you feel it too? And if so, what do you put it down to?
I put it down to, for me, I split macro and micro. Levy micro managed the club on a day-to-day basis. He, you know, you could look at situations with him, with who he employed, negotiations with other chairmen, etc., etc., etc. And he's gone. So for me, I'm happy about that, because I didn't think he was helping us on the football side. And I just think we're too big now for ENIC's way of working to take us on to the next level. So for me, I was happy that he left. But the problem for me, the big problem still remains, because unless ENIC have had a 180-degree swing, nothing's changed in terms of the way that they look on using Tottenham as a platform to get rich. Let's face it, Levy was a 29.8% shareholder of ENIC, and the focus was on him because he was running the club on a day-to-day basis. But at the end of the day, it is owned by ENIC, and if nothing's going to change as far as they're concerned, then Levy's been the fall guy. And someone else will come in, and maybe they'll run the club, or maybe Vinay will run the club in exactly the same way that Levy has, and we're no better off. So the mood that I'm talking about, though, is not so much about the ownership; it's the general kind of the season's momentum, like more around just like, I don't know. For me, I just would have thought that like everybody would have been universally behind and super excited about and talking about football and talking about what's possible this year. I just don't feel it. I feel like despite winning the trophy, I feel like there's the same sort of energy that there's always been around Tottenham. Just kind of, some people are happy momentarily, others are not. And then, you know, a win or a loss can dictate how everyone's week goes. You know, I just feel like I feel like the kind of the victory's in the back, it's in the rearview mirror, and it's almost like it didn't happen. Do you know what it is, Sean? It's been a roller coaster since Bilbao, hasn't it? Ange went, Frank came in. Players have come in, players have been lost. Sonny's gone. I think that hit. Although Sonny was on his way down, I think obviously that, you know, people aren't happy about. You know, he was the last of our legends from Poch's team, and, you know, last of the team, that 1 or 2 players that you could actually say are world class. We don't have an out and out world class player in the team. Romero's the closest, but I'd put him one level down. So for me, and we started off the season really well. We lost to PSG, but I think everybody, including myself, thought we were going to get battered. I thought the performance was excellent.
Not everybody. Not everybody. This guy didn't. I said I called it 2-2 on the Spurs 5, and you all loved me for it.
Broken clock, Sean.
You did. But the first two league games went very well, and then I think Bournemouth brought everybody down to earth, didn't it? Sort of the bubble burst a bit. You know, if we'd have won against Bournemouth, everybody would be up. They'd all be buzzing. Would be looking at Spurs top of the table for the last 2 weeks, and everyone would be saying, "Can't wait for West Ham." But then you got the two players right at the death. I think I'm looking forward to seeing them on Saturday, as I think the fan base are. It was a bit of a mixed. It was a mixed transfer window. I think we got 4 very good players, but only 2 of them were bought, 2 are on loan, and we lost 2 others. And we didn't get a left winger, and we didn't get a reserve left hybrid centre back, left back. So we are short. It's a strange one. There's been a lot of highs, but they are tempered with a few disappointments since Bilbao. So maybe that's the reason, Sean.
Yeah, maybe. Connor, can you feel it as well, or do you? Am I just, you know, inventing something in my own mind?
I don't think you're inventing something. I think there's a few points. I think the the trophy win, you know, all of us were in Bilbao, and so, you know, that was clearly fantastic, amazing, best day of my Spurs supporting life. But normally trophies are the climax to a good season, whereas for me that trophy was, thank God it happened. It was a relief to what was an absolutely dismal season, which I think is a contrast, as I say, to how you normally think of winning trophies. And so clearly, because we then sacked the manager as well, right? So I think that has made things, as Lubo sort of described, is a bit of a roller coaster. I think the first 3 games were still going on whilst the transfer window was going on. So I don't feel like people could enjoy the Burnley and City wins as much as they might otherwise, because they were still worried about how the rest of the transfer window was going to play out. So I suspect, Sean, if we beat West Ham comfortably at the weekend, you'll see a different mood immediately amongst the fan base, because now that transfer window's out of the way and all the crap that we've had to read all summer around in the nose and all of that has gone as well, and we can all just get on hopefully with thinking about football. So I think that will make a difference. I think with the Levy change, for all of his flaws, I've been pretty consistent in saying that he's not the biggest issue. Let's see if the kids that are Lubo's age act any different. But I think Joe Lewis for me is a much worse person than Daniel Levy is. Problem. I think Joe Lewis, in terms of just what he was anyway as a person, plus the fact that he had zero interest in Tottenham. I think I said it when we spoke about it before. He spent more on paintings for his art gallery than he has ever invested into Tottenham. So for me, until I see some hard evidence that there is some actual real change in terms of the way that ENIC are going to operate, I don't believe it, because and I know there's rumours that things are coming, and let's see. But we've got a short-term benefit, obviously, with Levy in terms of some of the micromanagement stuff and the burning of bridges and relationships and all of that type of stuff. And we've probably got, hopefully, a more sensible structure in terms of, a CEO. I'm hoping they bring in a new director of football. I think, hopefully that's all going to get better. But I don't think anything fundamentally changes, unless ENIC completely change their mindset. I do like how, I don't know if anyone else has noticed, it's not ENIC anymore, is it? It's the Lewis family and all of the communications.
Yeah, exactly. It's a massive bait and switch. It's a massive rebrand and a massive bait and switch, and I don't like it, mate. I smell a rat, bro. I don't like it at all. I'm not someone that's going to defend. I'm not sitting here defending Levy or whatever. I don't feel the same as you guys about the owners generally, right? I'm okay with them. I've always been okay with them in the context of sustainability and organic growth, right? But then when you look at the things that are happening outside of Tottenham, with Man City, the APT, all those things, and we'll come to that in a little while, then, nothing's going to change unless we get on board a whole new vision, like you say, Connor, right? But I don't like this pretend rebrand thing. I think it's a load. I think
the rebrand could be for two reasons. Yeah, the rebrand could be for two reasons in my mindset. One is because, ENIC out was a strong message, right, from a lot of the. So you rebrand that as the Lewis family. It's a little bit more personable, isn't it? Because you're like, oh look, it's this wonderful family. They're trying to do it for the legacy. They're really invested. It's no longer a business entity based in the Bahamas. It's these real people. And look,
they're coming to West Ham.
Don't. By the way, Daniel Levy went to every game.
For 25 years. And he was still the problem for Nashville.
For all these flaws, I don't think anyone could say that he wasn't at least,
visible,
turning up in a way that the Lewis family have never turned up. I think. But the second thing I read into it, and Vinay said it in his video, he said we've got the backing of our majority shareholder, the Lewis family. He didn't say we've got the backing of our ownership. We've got the backing of ENIC. He was and that's where I don't know whether it's me just trying to support my own theory that ultimately Levy is going to sell his shares and then they're going to get a minority investor in that way to then have someone else to front the cash for them, the Jim Ratcliffe style model. But I just thought it was quite telling, that sort of tweaking language.
Yeah, that very slight difference, right? And I think that, again, I'm always conscious of whether I'm supporting my own biases, and certainly in conspiracy theory mode. But again, I heard the same thing. I thought about it a little bit differently. We've got the support of these people, does that mean we don't have the support of Daniel Levy? Again, does that suggest that all is not well at sea between those families? And everyone keeps saying that the only argument that I've been hearing as to why my theories are wrong is because the Lewises and the Levys are like hand in glove. I cannot for the life of me see a scenario where Daniel Levy is okay with the way that this, like the ability to infer things, the massive rooms that are open, like the massive amount of room that's there that's open to interpretation from the way that the Times are reporting things, the Telegraph, the BBC, Sky News, all that stuff. I cannot believe that he would be okay with the way that this is being allowed to be inferred. So if there's, and like I said, people keep telling me, no, it's probably been, Levy's been aware of this for months, possibly. But if so, then where's the motivation to make it out like it's a new bit of information? It doesn't make sense.
He must have seen Cullen's gone, Charrington's in, Vinay's in. His power base is slipping away, isn't it? It was slipping away. So it's no fool. I'm sure he realised, he saw what was going on.
Just quickly, Lubo, I want to ask this question before we get into the specifics of the show. I just want to get a couple of top of my head things out there. Who's going to be the villain now? Between now and January, right? Between now and January, we'll see what happens in January. Obviously, we've got some stories to talk about with regards monster signings and all that stuff. But between now and the next time that the Lewises can really show their new version, right? They're like, Papa's got a new bag and all that stuff. There's always a need for a villain. Every story needs a villain, and it was Daniel.
Sean, you're the villain.
Oh, definitely going to be me in the spate, 100%. But in the people that are like on Twitter, who's going to be the villain? It has to be someone, and Daniel Levy's not there anymore. So is it going to be Thomas Frank? Is it going to be a player that's put on a pedestal, and if they don't hit the ground, is it Xavi Simons, for example? Is it going to be Mathys Tel? Is it going to be Vinay? Is it going to be Johan Lang? Who's going to play the role of the villain?
I think there's going to be a hiatus where there isn't a villain.
If we lose to West Ham, bro, there's no hiatus.
No.
There'll be a meltdown, like there always is.
No, I think that the fans now, there's been so much change that I think everyone's got to step back and just see how things pan out. If anybody's in the front line, then it's Vinay. But I'm waiting to hear the next big news where Sean Butler joins forces with Change for Tottenham, because I think that's happening, mate. I think that is happening.
Nah.
Based on what I'm hearing from you, I think this ENIC outs. This new ENIC out from Mr. Butler.
I can't allow. It would be remiss of me to not point out the obvious attempt here. I can see it. I think I can see it. I could be wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? If the Lewises put up 300 million quid or do something crazy, right, and that alongside the Maquarie money, all that, if all that stuff is in line with a new version, then fine. I'm like, it's cool with me.
Yeah.
But it's the pretense that's going on at the moment. It's the skullduggery and the shenanigans and these little things that are happening that I can see it. To me, it's transparent that what's going on here. It's a whitewash. They're trying to present these things like a free hit for new people that are coming in, and that everything that happened before wasn't anything to do with us. It was someone else. Blame the boogeyman. He's no longer all that. And I'm like, nah, I'm not allowing it. Everyone else can do what they want. I don't even think the Lewises were bad, like the ENIC were bad, right? But I'm not allowing it for those people that think that they were that there was massive problems. I'm not going to allow these kids that are 65 years old or whatever coming in and just doing a little bit of skullduggery with regards PR and marketing exploits and cleverly worded, scripted interviews with the king of communication, Vinay.
Well,
I'm not going to allow that to go without putting it out there that I think it's a load of bollocks.
I think
it doesn't matter if the money comes in, great, but if it doesn't, I don't think that they can get away with it like that easily.
Right, listen, I think there used to be a TV show called Department S, and I think you've got Sean and Snell now joining forces with ENIC out. I think it's going to be a monster. This is going to be a monster. This is going to be a juggernaut. This will be a social media juggernaut. I'm telling you.
No.
Department S, ENIC out. I'm telling you, it's going to build and build and build. If they don't come through, joking aside, if they don't come through over the next year, Maybe not so much in January because that is a difficult window. Although I do think players that are left out that want to get into that want to be in the shop window for the international managers for the World Cup, I do think they'll be looking to move if they're not getting game time. I know Spurs are looking at Savio. They'll be watching whether he gets game time under Pep, and if he doesn't, then I'm sure they will move. I'm sure Savio will be very happy to leave. But I think that particularly next summer, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
So you're not going to be going to have changed for Tottenham, like relinquished their, regular marches. Are you familiar with their current, what's happening on for the next home game against Villarreal, for example? Are they going to be protesting, or are they going to be sitting there waiting?
They'll be holding off now, I think.
I think they'll hold off. I don't think they've got a choice after what happened for the last two that they did. I think they've got to hold back. They're not redundant because Levy left, because ENIC is still there. And at the end of the day, ENIC have been the owners for the last 25 years, albeit Levy has been the front man.
The front man that's been sent over the front line to get run down by machine guns.
We discussed this before, didn't we? I don't subscribe that it's this soap opera, and that there is. I don't. But equally, that doesn't mean that I don't agree with you that the Lewis family are using this as a PR exercise to make everyone forget what Dad's been like for all of this time. And I think both things can probably be true at the same time. That it could have been an amicable split, and I say that as just someone who's been involved in, my corporate life in senior exits, and I think Simon Jordan was making the point that Levy might lawyer up. He'll already have lawyered up, because that's the way these things work when you have, people at this level, right? Someone of that magnitude who's leaving after 25 years with, effectively 25% ownership of the football club. Lawyers will be involved. There would have been settlement agreements. This is why I think there's been an exit agreement that's already been planned. There's other points as well, which I think the key one is, I reckon the kids have got a different attitude to fronting money for Daniel Levy than Joe Lewis did have, because I suspect what it is they're now got to this inflection point where they know they've got to put more money in, right? That's inevitable. They have to, right? Because now they've run out of that massive buffer in terms of cash reserves where they can continue to just draw down on the football club. And with what's still to deliver in terms of property, etc., they know they have to put more cash in. Obviously, we know that Levy could never really front that himself and meet his portion of the capital call with the Lewises. And perhaps what has happened is a bit of a mix of all of our theories, which is Vivian has gone, why are we continuing to front this whilst he gets to continue to benefit from the upside of it?
Yeah, and it's 3 million. It's 3 million salary that they haven't got a penny in 25 years.
Exactly, and we're not getting any. So I think there's a bit of that.
I think that's the source of contention. I think that's the source of contention. I think that's where the kids, Charlie and Vivian, are pissed off. Right? Is that, hang about, like 25 years, you've taken 60 million quid out. We hadn't had a penny. You keep coming cap in hand to Daddy and asking for ENIC to front more money, of which, by the way, Daniel Levy is a 25% owner of. So 25% of the money would have to somehow be coming from Levy's pool in the ENIC thing anyway, right? So it's all a little bit opaque. But listen, my gut instinct, and it's very, very rarely too far from the truth or too far from being somewhere near the truth, is that it isn't some conviviality arrangement here. That Daniel Levy's built his baby, and I think he's been the fall guy. Either way, this idea that we're now taking a Maquarie a payday loan, right? And I know it's common, and we haven't done as much as others have. But if that's the source, if that's the cash flow that's going to either have paid for what we've just done or going to be the front run on what we're going to do, Daniel Levy didn't need to step aside for that to happen. So, I don't really see the benefit. Why is Daniel Levy stepping to one side unless there is a problem with his relationships. Like, none of what we've seen so far makes any sense. The fact that the idea of the Eze deal, right? Let's look at the Eze deal. Loads of people in the media seem to suggest that there's a bit of a consensus that Parish went to Chelsea in that game and basically made it known to people that him nickeling and diming on that Eze deal was the source of his frustration, ended up letting him go to Arsenal, all that stuff, right? If Daniel Levy knew that he was going to be sidelined 2 weeks later, why would his last act as CEO be to nickel and dime over a couple of $100,000 or a few percent here or there? Again, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. And so, like, I cannot get on board this notion that that anything else other than they got the kids coming in and they want to blow smoke up people's asses and they want to make out like he was the problem, get him out of the way, and ambition is about to fall through. And yet all we've seen so far is 2 failed bids, 2 rejections of any kind of expressions of interest. Apparently now also, which we'll come to now, the impending rejection of Rothchilds. They're about to be sidelined according to Football London, and that it's business as usual. But Papa's got a brand new bag, kind of like. I mean, it doesn't like where like. Show me what has changed. Show me where apart from saying things are going to change, apart from saying the ambition is there. Don't worry, our majority owners are going to do all this stuff. Show me anything in any of the correspondence, either intimated from journalists or from official correspondence, that suggests anything will change in any way, shape, or form.
I don't think there is any evidence that anything will change, other than I mean, because equally even the window, right? Obviously, we've gone for a different type of profile of play, and we're all very happy with the quality that's been brought in, because that's been a clear marked improvement, and the wages attached to that will be different. But the spend is not particularly different, is it? You know, I suspect, you know, you look at the net spend for this window, that's sort of there or thereabouts of where we've been for the last couple of years, right? So
we spent less this window than we have done under either any of the Ange windows, right? So.
Yeah, so it's not a massive change there. I think for me, two things can be true at the same time. He could have been a bit of a push of him out, because, as I say, they're getting frustrated with the fact that he's as we said, realised some money and they haven't, and but I still think it will have been done in an amicable way, just because. So I don't buy this. He found out on the day, because that's just ridiculous. I mean, that Times article that.
So how long
he found out
a
couple of hours before the announcement was made.
So, but how long ago do you think he knew?
When Charrington was put in place.
So then, Vinay is participating in a load of absolute.
Yeah. I mean, I had this conversation with my dad, because we were saying, he was making the same point about the Vinay video, and I said, people lie. I've been involved in these.
Your first two demonstrations of being the king of communication, apparently, and his first 2 videos are built on lies. Is that what we're saying?
Look at how many businesses do it when the CEO comes out and he'll say, these are our long-term ambition, and he already knows he's going in 6 months' time. It's just because you've got to present this fast to the public, haven't you? I agree with you. It's not great.
For what benefit? What I understand the benefit of saying, look, if we were going to announce it,
you don't want to create speculation that Levy's going before.
Fair enough, because you've got the window to get through all that stuff. But now the window's done. Why couldn't Daniel? If that's true, why couldn't Daniel Levy or someone come out a joint statement and say, look, it looks like it's a shell shock kind of reaction. It isn't. This has been in the works for a long time. Obviously, the reasons why we didn't announce it earlier was because we didn't want to, rock the boat during a very important transfer window. But now that it's September the 5th or 4th or whatever else, this is what's really going on. It's all convivial. It's all part of the plan. Daniel Levy, whatever, just say something to regards calming any conspiracy theories that all is not calm at sea. And that it hasn't happened. And the narrative is that I was expecting to be working with my boss for years to come. It turns out to be only a couple of months. The narrative is that our majority owners, not ENIC, right, that they back us. The narrative is that Daniel Levy is the problem. And that's wild.
Yeah. But I think not a lot is being said because they're selling his stake. That's why, as I say, so I think they're letting that process play itself out.
My personal feeling is just looking at it logically and looking at the fact that, when people in big positions are ousted, they go. They're not hanging around for 2 or 3 months. They're gone. They're finished. They pack, they empty their desk and they're out. So
yeah, even Levy's wife resigned the same day that Daniel Levy was announced that he was stepping down.
So he was told.
I think he was told on the day, and I think it did happen that quickly.
I think it was as well.
Yeah,
we can disagree, but I like explain.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean,
apart from if the relationship between the Levy and Lewis's wasn't as tight as it apparently has been, what other evidence is there to think that there's anything more than what?
Do you not look? I think I said this before. Daniel is many things, but stupid he is not. He knows who Peter Charrington is. Do you not think he would have been involved in that process of Charrington coming onto the board? He would have had
no.
He would have been informed. He wouldn't have found out like all of us when the company's house was updated, right? It's sort of he would have known that. Vinay as well. When they say, "Okay, we're going to bring in a CEO," he would have clocked at these points. Anyone with a brain would clock. Why are they suddenly putting a non-exec director on the board without telling me, without letting me be involved in the process? Why are they suddenly appointing a CEO without me actively interviewing and being involved? Bearing in mind, I've run every facet of the club for 25 years. That's where, unless he's got
I hear you. That's a weird one. It's definitely a weird one. Yeah, like, he is not an idiot, and he would have smelt a rat at some point. Yeah,
he would have. Yeah. I mean,
but the equal and opposite point, as what I was making a minute ago, also doesn't stack up. Like, if you're on board it, why are you allowing the narrative to be presented that the ambition was
now? I agree with you, but maybe because he's, as I say, this is where I think the stake has been sold, and so I think we'll hear more and we'll see how it plays out. But
the stake's already been sold,
or is in process of being sold. Yeah.
To one of those two people, those two counterparts?
No, not necessarily. Because you've got to remember as well, if someone buys his stake directly from ENIC, it's not subject to the takeover code stuff. So we wouldn't even know about it.
There is an agreement, I was told, that both Levy and Lewis will sell at the same time to the same buyer. So, unless, of course, Levy sells his shares to Lewis.
It massively benefits the Lewis family, though, doesn't it, if they sell Levy's stake first? Because if they sell Levy's stake first, they get someone else who can front the cash, and they also get to benefit from the upside that comes post, whoever. Because if you think the club's worth 3.5 billion there or thereabouts now, it's not that hard to get it to 5 billion, 5 billion if you invested the right money, did it right.
Right,
got yourself in the Champions League consistently, got a naming rights deal lined up, all of these types of stuff. Okay, so they probably think, look, we can give it another 2 or 3 years with a minority investor with us that can actually front some money.
But if someone's buying Levy's stake, that money goes straight to Levy, doesn't
it? Yeah, for the stake. But then they've got someone who, that person inevitably would also be happy to invest some money into the club as well, right? You would think. In the same way Ratcliffe's come in and bought part of the Glazers out of Man United, he's now the one fronting a lot of the cash that's being invested into Man United.
Yeah. And can I just answer Simo? Levy has 29% in ENIC.
Yeah.
And ENIC had 86.58, or it might even be 87% now.
86.91 now.
Is it 91? So he's
got nickel and dime in now.
He's got 29% of 86.91. So which is roughly probably around 27% of Spurs. Lewis is around 61%, and there's 13% left with the little people. There's 30,000 like myself that have got a few shares.
You do well out of this, Lubo, though, when they do finally sell.
Will I?
Yeah, you'll get about £12 a share.
Not fantastic.
You do really well.
You get about £12-13 a share, mate. You got 700 shares. There's enough to pay for my Beaver Street exploits for the evening.
Be enough to fund Sean on a night out.
let's sort of, because we are, but we're all speculating here. I think we're all suspicious that neither story makes sense either way, right? And then you have this one here that comes out today from Football London, and it's not from Ali Gold, it's from Kieran Horn. Is it on the screen? Hang on a second, let me get it on the screen.
I think it was in City AM as well, Sean. So
Yeah, it was City. Yeah, I think they're referencing the City AM.
Fairly reputable.
Yeah. I used to City AM, obviously financial paper. The City AM article are talking about, there you go, according to City AM, Tottenham are weighing up whether or not to replace Rothschild as the club's retained bankers. The financial institution were brought on board in April 2024 to advise the club on a potential external investment. However, that process was halted in its tracks earlier this summer as a cash injection from ENIC was pushed into the club. Just quickly, what was that cash injection? Am I forgetting something there, or was that just misinformation?
Well, it's that rumor that it's coming, but obviously, if it has happened, they have to disclose it on Companies House within 30 days if it's a change in the capital structure, which is normally the case. So I don't think they haven't.
There was talk of 120 million going in, wasn't there, with 300 million coming from an outside investor, but nothing seems to have materialised at the moment.
So it's also been claimed that an investment process is no longer being conducted. Contracts with third-party advisors are being reviewed, and Rothschild may well end up being let go. Levy himself also appears to be in a difficult position over whether or not to sell his 30% shareholding stake in ENIC, having already lost £3 million through an annual salary and bonuses. I mean, I feel like on these sorts of topics, lads, I feel like, you know, like the three of us are sort of people that are enjoying, I'd include Johnny in this one as well, like we're the sort of people that love this sort of content, and it usually have some sort of clear directional path of where we are, even if it's opaque in the media. I'm not sure I have any real stance right now. Like, I feel like, I mean, the CAM are saying that the process of looking for investment has been halted. Connor and I both think that the deal with regards to naming rights thing was probably close, if not already agreed. We were saying all summer that was obviously there was something going on. You know, the amount of money we had to spend on Morgan Gibbs White, all these sorts of things. Then the Maquarie thing comes in. Obviously, Maquarie is literally just, for those people that don't know, apparently it's £90 as a funding, as a facility, but that's against future broadcast revenues from TV media from this season, right, Connor, unless I'm wrong? So it's essentially just you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like, you're taking money what you're going to have later, you're borrowing it now and paying a couple of % on the interest and a fee for the loan or whatever. So you're getting ahead of you're basically just sort of replacing cash now than what you won't have later on. So if that's being used for January transfers, then that will come out of any potential bucket that will be available next summer, pending whatever happens with our performances this year. But like, I'm sitting here kind of scratching my head because none of this makes sense, and both angles, like whether everything's good or everything's terrible, we're close to an investment or we're miles away from it.
Does this make sense? Rothschilds were employed to bring in outside investment into the club. If it appears that they are on the way out, then maybe somebody outside of Rothschilds, there's been an approach to the club, and the club are considering a sale. So why employ Rothschilds if you're some way down the road with a potential buyer? For me, that's, I don't know, maybe for me 2 and 2 is equaling 4 there. Maybe I'm equaling 44. I don't know. But to me, if someone's there to bring in investment and then all of a sudden...
You think an overall sale is an actual sale of the football club? 100%, ENIC gone, Levy gone, everybody else, Charrington gone, everybody... You think that's imminent in the next 6 months, 12 months, do you?
I think it's a possibility.
See, I don't, because of the phase 3 of the Northumberland Park project that's got so much to go on it, and then there's a phase 4 behind that. Plus, you have the White Webs development that includes NFL training, all of that stuff. That's like 2-3 years, 4 years away.
Yeah,
I can't imagine that ENIC are going to give up that valuation just so early.
The other alternative, which ties in with something someone said to me a few years ago, was that Joe Lewis came from the area originally when he came to England, and he wants to give something back, and that's towards the refurbishment. So maybe this is the first.
I laugh at that one
That guy
because
that devastated Patagonia. Yeah, that guy wants to give something back to Tottenham. Okay.
Maybe it's the
doing it.
start. Maybe it's the start of a 4 or 5 year plan to buy out the club. Maybe,
I think it will be 5 years until the project is finished. Connor, what are you saying, mate?
yeah, I as I say, I'm sticking with my theory that Daniel Levy's stake is being sold because I can just see how that benefits everyone, right? And it wouldn't shock me. Even people were saying, why would Levy do that? Well, he suddenly gets to realise 800 million, £1 billion. He's in his 60s. His daughter is now at university in America. His son is never in the UK. There's plenty of very wealthy people that are leaving the UK because of the political environment at the moment. You can see there could be a drive of him to go, maybe not happily go because it was his baby, to your point. But when they start to push and then he realizes actually, okay, this might work for everyone, and we go off into the sunsets. But then, yeah, to your point, I think the Lewis family stick around to benefit from that further upside for at least a couple of years, and then probably look to sell. I mean, look, it's weird because, and I was reflecting on this, most private equity companies, right? And if you look at the average ownership of football clubs, even, they normally typically look to exit an investment after sort of 5 to 7 years as your normal, maybe up to 10 at max. But to hold something for 25 years, as has been the case with Tottenham, is very uncommon. But it's not a normal private equity company, in it, because it's almost more like a family office. And they talk about this, wanting to hold it through the generations and all of this type of stuff as well, which is what concerns me with them, because what you don't want is this being passed on and passed on and passed on forevermore. Because as I say, I think we are better off without them. So I'm hoping it's quicker than generations, but I do think they'll stick around for at least a few years to see that upside.
Maybe Joe's looking at him and he's thinking, do you know what, I'm 88, let's tie up a few, let's get my affairs in order. Maybe. They always looked on Spurs. They had Slavia Prague, they had AEK Athens, they had Glasgow Rangers. They always looked at Tottenham as the big cash cow for them, the big profit maker, always. Maybe he's looking at it and thinking, do you know what, I'll 12 times at minimum, if it's 3 million, if it's 3 billion, then he will 12 times the investment. So, that's being conservative. If it's 4 billion, it's 16 times, which is phenomenal profit.
Do you think though that he is still calling the shots? Right, Harry Redknapp brought out his sort of interview the other day, didn't he? Saying like it was always Joe that was calling the shots. I'd love to know whether or not in the last couple of years he's 88, 89, whatever, right? So
yeah,
a couple of years when you're 86 to 88, 89, you can see a pretty quick deterioration of mental health and things, and senility, all those sorts of things can kick in. I just wonder whether or not, like, here's the thing for me, right? Here's the thing for me. And it's what my dad said to me, and I thought he was bang on the money, and I hadn't thought of it that way. He's like, when you're asking for £3.5 billion for, or after debt, whatever else, or £3 billion after debt, you're going to filter out a lot of people that only want to take what you've got there and then grow from it, because it's going to be limited upside in that regard. However, when you look at the NFL franchises and you compare the revenues of the NFL franchises to the market caps of them, if you were looking at Tottenham's revenue, probably this season just finished, or this season coming, will be something like maybe $720 million. That would put Tottenham Hotspur if it was an NFL franchise, at about 12th or 13th in the list. And yet everyone from first to 32nd, thank you, everyone from first to 32nd has a higher market cap in dollars, in billions, than Tottenham Hotspur currently does. And so you might be filtering out a lot of people that don't have any interest or access or any of those sorts of things. But the fact that Tottenham are still trying to do the white webs, that still has the NFL training ground, the fact that there's £100 million that was dropped on that stadium of the stadium was dropped just on the retractable pitch. Surely, clearly, there is some intention for the NFL to move a franchise, right? They've got the record amount of international games ever this year. They just done one in Brazil. I think they're doing 4 or 5 here. They've got a few others elsewhere. You've just seen Barcelona get approved to have their first La Liga game to be done in Florida. All of these global sports are going to move in that direction. They all are. It's a slippery slope. La Liga's got theirs. Serie A's had theirs. It's going to be in the Premier League as well. The reason why they're getting their promotions and the approvals in those other leagues first is because they're pushing that because they're trying to close the revenue gap on the Premier League. But once that happens, the Premier League is going to be next. And so what you then have, if Tottenham Hotspur are the best like resources available for an eventual NFL franchise, then you can have someone come in that can look at Tottenham Hotspur at 4 billion quid now, finish off all those various projects, and then be a part of something that could easily multiply to 8 to 10 to 12 billion when you've got Tottenham Hotspur with hopefully with higher recurring trophies, all that stuff. Plus you've got the London Spurs or whatever NFL franchise. That whole group could easily be worth 10, 11, 12 billion. So whilst you're filtering out all of the irrelevant parties that can't afford 3 billion that just want to participate in a turnkey operation that is Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, what you are doing is bringing in a lot of interest in people that have got that access to the knowledge of the NFL football side of the game. And with all of the things that are kicking in, all the amplifiers, all of the Netflix for sports, all of these things that are going to be coming in the next 12, 18 months, 24 months anyway, to me, you are opening up that market to American investors. But Daniel Levy and Enoch surely know that. They're not idiots, Connor, as you say, right? They're not idiots. They are all very smart people. They're going to be aware that whilst you're filtering out the majority, you're bringing in a wealthier, healthier minority of people that can see and take us to that next level. But they will want to benefit from that, right? They're not going to sit there and sell it to somebody else just at the bottom of that kicker in the valuation. So on that basis, whether or not Joe Lewis will be around to see it, if it takes 5 years to finish Northumberland Park, the project, in all of the phases, then won't Levy, who's been the spearhead of all of that, won't he want to be around to be a part of it and benefit from it? Like, it doesn't make sense to think that they're going to give up the goose and that golden egg just when it's ripe for plucking. They're not going to let someone else take all of that juice, aren't they? They're going to want to be there for the squeeze as well.
Maybe they'll do a deal and Levy will get an extra. He'll get his percentage of what the business is worth. Maybe it'll be based on future work. That's down to the lawyers, isn't it?
You think for him though as well. I mean, he's now, and this is why this is what supports my theory. I think that his stake is being sold now because he has no representation at all on the board anymore, right? So if they had moved him out of the de facto CEO role, the exec chairman role, into a non-exec role, I think I probably wouldn't say that he's selling his stake, but the fact that he is now, we discussed it, he's lost 3 million plus a year in salary, plus his interests are not reflected whatsoever or represented at all on the board. So he's just a silent shareholder now at this point. It implies to me that he must have agreed to something as part of this exit, because although clearly the Lewises have got more power, it can still make life a bit difficult, right? With the percentage he holds, etc. We don't know exactly, obviously, what the shareholder agreement says in the Bahamas, in terms of whether he's got any blocking powers or anything like that. But nevertheless, he has a significant holding, doesn't he? It's not 5% or 10%. It's almost 30 of Enoch, right?
Connor, if the percentage, if the shares based on money are the same as the shares for voting, then they outvote him every time. So in effect, he is a partner just sat in his house watching Spurs build or reduce the value of his shareholding. Pretty much.
Yeah, I just
What's
think
he going to do? He's going to get involved. He's going to go down there. He's not wanted. They've obviously asked him to leave. You read the reports. They've said cheerio. So he's out. So he gets involved in a vote. He's
I
got
think the other thing is as well. I think the thing is, Sean,
he's
to
got
to
3
your
out of
point
10. hasn't
around. Yeah, so sorry, Lou, but to your point, Sean, around would Levy also want to see that upside? Problem is if he's been told categorically by Enoch, we're not going to put in any more cash for you, like we've done this whole time. He don't really have a choice at that point anymore, does he? Because to get that upside, they need to put in more cash. So it's almost like this vicious cycle. And he goes, "Well,
Yeah.
I can't," and they go, "Well, if you can't, you're out. You got to sell your stake because we need someone who can. Because we're not going to let you benefit any more from us putting in money for you." He's and then I think if he stepped away from that, he would go, "Well, look, yes, I've done a load of the hard work over this 25 years. We can argue about, how much we argue that or whatever. Let's just put that to the side." But I think in his head, he could probably rationalise it. And go, yeah, but at the same time, I've earned over 60 million quid during this time in terms of salary. I haven't had to really front any cash, and I'm going to walk away with 800 million quid. I've done all right out of this actually, and I can go and move out of the UK, not be subject to the tax stuff in the UK anymore. I can go and live in the Bahamas
Sure.
Yeah.
and move on with my life. And I think sometimes you just got to. This is where we have to delve into
Know
personal
when to sell,
motivation.
right?
For people.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And because otherwise he's at this inflection point anyway, whereby, well, I can't front any more cash. So there might even be something in the shareholder agreement which says that if you don't, and Joe Lewis might have applied his discretion on it before, but there might be something in there that says if you don't meet your capital calls as relates to your investment, we have the power to push you out. There might even be something like that. That's not uncommon in the private equity world.
Maybe some of those covenants that we were talking about all summer.
Yeah.
Maybe they were more specific to Daniel Levy than to Enoch.
But if they just put in, if they had put in,
maybe
they just put in money for share rights issues. That's it. There aren't loans like Abramovich was smashing in money, and Mansour's probably been smashing in money. There are no loans, directors' loans outstanding. There are, so it's not like Lewis could turn around and say. Neither of them can turn around and say, "Fine, I put in 200 million more than you. That comes out when comes off the profit. That gets paid back before we divvy up when the club's sold." So, if Lewis is then in a position where he's now putting in more money, for argument's sake, just say he says, "Right, I'm going to put in 500 million." Right, Daniel, you're 30%, I'm 70%. Or say 490. If I'm putting in 490. You've got to put in 210, and Levy turns around and says, "Well, I haven't got that."
Maybe that's what it's come down to. You're right. You know what? Maybe the fact that Levy's stepping aside, and this maybe plays into Connor's hands, that at the end of the day, for every 100 million that comes in via Enoch, Daniel Levy, as 30% owner of Enoch, is responsible for 30% of those funds, right? And if he doesn't have those monies, then maybe that makes the whole conversation. Actually, to be honest, it was something I never really looked into back in the day when we had that 150 million that only became 100 million that was injected a couple of years ago. Where did that come from?
Yeah,
where did whose money? Like, where did that initial, whose bank account did that come from into Tottenham? Because if it's coming from Enoch via a share issue, then was Daniel Levy diluted? He
wasn't though, was he?
He wasn't diluted.
I think we can all assume that Uncle Joe fronted that cash, because Daniel's wealthy, but I don't think he'd have 30 million to just go, "Here you go," in terms of liquid cash. So I think Uncle Joe fronted that cash, but Daniel benefited from it because his shareholding went up in line with the rest of Enoch, and we know that because we can see from the accounts he's has gone up. So
all the while paying himself additional bonuses and kickers in his compensation.
So then Vivian and Charlie come in and they go, "Well, we know we've probably, let's be realistic. Enoch have got to put in what, 300, 400 million realistically, or someone has to get us
do what? Compete in the Premier League,
finish the property stuff, to get us to where we need to be in terms of competing on the foot. So and Levy's not got 30% of 300, 400.
Do we think that this has happened? When Joe Lewis was in trouble with the authorities in the States, and he had the court case coming, and he put the club into a trust, and all of a sudden, instead of him running it with Daniel Levy fronting it on a day-to-day basis, he's taken a step back and the kids have got involved. And that's possibly where it's all started.
It'd be interesting to know. Do you guys know Levy's wife's husband? Right, the bald guy who's always on the sideline.
Levy's wife's brother, do you mean?
Brother.
Sorry, Levy's wife's
Yeah.
Levy's wife's brother. That would be weird.
Yes.
Yeah, doing a full 360 there. Is he's still at the club, isn't he?
I don't know. It's a good
We'll
question.
find out.
Player liaison officer, yeah. Alan Dixon, isn't it?
Alan
It'll be
Dixon.
interesting to see if he's there on Saturday.
Yeah. If he isn't, then it's obviously a clean sweep. Guys, let's move away from the.
Sean, just on that quickly. I've got a feeling
crack on.
he was with Langer getting into the taxi with Kolo Muani. I think he was there, on transfer deadline day, so still involved at least at that. But obviously Levy was still around at that point, so obviously, it'll be interesting to see.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens there. With regards how we see January, do you expect? Obviously, we know we've got 26 days now. I think it is until Firehawk have to put up or shut up. I think Connor, you and I share the same vibe on that one. Like, not knowing a lot about them, but knowing what we can find about them. Not for us, right? Like, don't really feel like they're the sort. If the argument was always Daniel Levy's taking us as far as he can, surely someone that's just responsible for a $50 million revenue company in Triller, alongside other things, surely that's also one to avoid. But regardless of whether that happens, do we expect something meaningful to be dropped before, like within the next sort of 60, 90 days before we get into Christmas, with regard either a confirmation of a sponsorship deal, some sort of minority investment, and if so, does your intuitions, boys, tell you it's going to come from American money, or is it going to come from the Lewises specifically, or is it going to come from maybe something like, not necessarily her, but something like
Amanda Staveley.
Amanda Staveley and the kind of Far Eastern kind of money? Because when you compare it to like what's happened with the APT thing that dropped yesterday, right, where City apparently they've settled with the Premier League, but they've essentially got their approval to have £1 billion naming rights deal that's going to be stretched via escalators to 1.75 billion over the next 10 years because of inflation and all that stuff. Like the amount of money that club is going to make in just a couple of the Puma deal and that alone is like 250 million quid a year in their commercials just from 2 deals, right? So to me, the only way that, and I've seen loads of people writing this, but the only way that you can really compete then, therefore, with the new settlement around APTs is to find somebody who has relationships with APTs, and they also have that diversified kind of relationship with money where they don't mind robbing Peter to pay Paul because it's good for the goose and good for the gander, like what happened with Abu Dhabi and Etihad. And if you're going to do that, that doesn't exist in America. That only exists in the Far East. That only exists via Kuwait. That only exists via Qatar. That only exists via Brunei or somewhere like Bahrain, those sorts of things. And so, is that essentially the only way in which we can really move the needle and really take advantage of the kind of current loose Premier League rules regarding those sorts of sponsorships? Because otherwise you're just pissing into the wind, right? 100 million, 200 million, it's nothing, is it? It's nothing compared to what these guys are doing.
I'm torn between regarding what type of owner I want. If you get once you've got a majority, I think, of American owners, they can start changing changing the constitution for the Premier League. And we're pretty much we're virtually there now, aren't we? I think we've got 9 or 10 American owners in the Premier League.
Something like that, yeah.
But I want people to come in who understand sports. And because you're there, you've got people coming in with the required skill set, which unfortunately Levy didn't have. He was great on the commercial side. When it came to football, he was clueless, and that showed in the way he dealt at certain times, like Martin Jol, not understanding when Harry wanted Tevez and Cahill, and he gave him Saha and Nelson. Moments in sliding doors, moments where you've got to grab the opportunity, take the opportunity, and make stuff happen. And he because he just didn't understand the sports. And for me, we need people with that expertise to come in. The Cronkies have got it with Arsenal. They know because of their sporting background, they know what's needed. And that's what we need. That's what we need. Fenway the same. City.
I think we've got.
City brought in the guy from Barcelona, didn't he? And he brought his team in from Barcelona. So they came in 2008, 2009, and within 2 years they had this guy across, and they let him run the football side. And look how successful that's been with the money, with the financial muscle they've got. But they brought in people to run the club and to bring the right people in who knew which players to bring in, because that's key. At the end of the day, you can have plenty of money. And I remember Newcastle bought Asprilla for about 6 million, was it? In '96, and they blew the league. If they'd have bought the right sort of person, they wouldn't have blown the 12-point lead over Man United in February, and that would have been their.
All that stuff is so revisionist, mate. It's one of those.
It is.
We had the same conversation on Monday with you.
In place. If you got the
right,
right
that's what I mean. But that's such a fine line, isn't it? They're only the right people if it turns out that they won the league. If they didn't, then they weren't the right people. So you're never going to know that until you know that after the fact, right?
Yes, but if you know what you're doing and you know the right people to bring in because you've got a background of sport and you know the type of personalities you're looking for because they fit your culture, your mentality, they fit the ethos of what you're building, then obviously it's a massive help. If you've been taught to be a trader and you're coming into a product business, then you're at a disadvantage, unfortunately. So
yeah,
my guess is I think it's going to be. I would rather it was Middle Eastern oil money because of some of the reasons you just described. Like you're giving me the ideal. Yeah. And I know some people will have some moral issues with that, but as I said before when we spoke about it, if you do, then you need to look at every aspect of your life because it's flowing into the UK economy.
Didn't you get a message from someone, Conor?
Yeah, that they don't shop in
Conor,
Sainsbury's.
I don't want Qatari money, and by the way, I don't shop at Sainsbury's.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that comment. I looked at a photo. There was a photo of her with Johnny as well, which I found quite funny. But anyway, yeah. So I would rather have that because I think they have got a completely different relationship with money, and although they want to clearly get a return on their investment, it can be about other things as well in terms of soft power and influence and all of those types of things. So they're willing to act a certain way. Unfortunately, I think, and I reflected on this after our last conversation, Sean, I think it's going to end up being US private equity money because I think they will be more willing to accept a minority investment for a while compared to the Middle Eastern owners who typically want to come in and get 100% quickly and have full control. Whereas that US private equity model of we're happy to invest a small amount, get minority and grow it over time because actually that suits us because it means we can invest our money into other places in the short term. And so I think it will end up being that. And then there's the obvious synergies with things like NFL and stuff, as you mentioned. And I mean, I was reading, funnily enough, I was reading something today, and it was saying that now there's something like 36% of the money that's flowing into football is coming from private equity companies, either via private equity or private debt. And that continues to increase. And as I say, that was the way that Real Madrid and Barcelona stadiums were funded. Our stadium was effectively funded that way, debt rather than equity. But it's clearly the way that it's moving. Apollo just announced they're going to do a $5 billion fund to invest into sport. So, you can see that there's that natural growth that's going to happen. So for me, I think that's what will happen with us. I think we'll get a US private equity investor in for annual stake, and then maybe over time they'll look to take full ownership.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. I mean, look, to be honest, it could be a little bit of both, right? Like you look at the PIF fund, for example, and how they're invested in 100 different versions of Clear Lake Capital, right? And so, you could end up with something that's a visual representation of one or the other, and then behind the scenes, there's also one and the other that are, it's a tangled web, right? Like I remember looking at the 777 partners, or was it MCP Capital, The guys that had massive money laundering, they were robbing Peter to pay Paul across their various multi-club ownerships. They were taking money out of one to put it into the other, and all these different things. And I think that's still going on, to be entirely honest. I think they're under a massive investigation for various financial crimes. But I think I did a video about it about a year and a half ago. Like the kind of consequence. You go back to the financial crisis of 2008, when Northern Rock had the run on the bank, for example, for the UK listeners. The reality is that crisis didn't start with Northern Rock, but because of just the way that finances work, where everybody's investing and they all sort of buy little stakes of each other's funds and things, then it's a very tangled web. And so I'm pretty sure it'd be exactly the same thing if you are getting a front load from PE or a front load from Saudi or whatever. Behind the scenes, there's going to be money flowing in via various different channels. But we shall see. I want to finish up, guys, in a minute with just regarding the kind of monster signings narrative that's out this evening.
Sean, can I just answer Adam Phillip? NFL contract Adam's put a couple of minutes ago runs out in 2030. It runs out in 2034. I was on the stadium tour a few months ago, and the guy who was the host took us into the NFL dressing rooms, and he was telling us about it. And we have, although Spurs obviously are very disappointed because they would have hoped to have had a franchise in place by now, because the way they worked it out, each team has 8 home matches, and those home matches could be played over a period in total of 4 weeks. So they would only be away from their family and out of the country for 4 weeks, 2 games over the course of a week on 4 different occasions, and that's where we're up to. We've got enough going until 2034. Sorry, Sean.
Yeah, and after that, like I'm sure there'll be even then there'll be renewals of the contract. But unless something significantly changes with regards to London Stadium, I can't imagine that anyone else is going to have the setup in play. I think that's one of the reasons why whoever it was that was part of that idea, they thought ahead and they sort of cemented themselves with that opportunity more so than anywhere else in Europe. So. But eventually, the value of the stadium that we have right now, the best stadium in Europe or whatever, they're going to stop saying that within 12 months. Like when Barcelona Stadium, Real Madrid Stadium is beautiful. Eventually, Newcastle United will probably build their new stadium, and they will have all of the things that Tottenham have, plus other things that Tottenham didn't think of. That's just the way that kind of imitation works, I guess. Right? People learn from
London
people.
Helps, doesn't it? London
certainly helps, yeah. London helps.
Newcastle are looking at building on the banks of the Tyne. I think it's an 81,000 seater.
Yeah, it's going to be mental. It's a one club city, isn't it? Although Sunderland might have something to say about that pretty soon. And fair play to them for their efforts this window. Let me do some super chats, and then we're going to move into the actual Tottenham, the stories regarding some of the more exciting stuff. Big up to you, Dean Law, the super sticker. I'm sure this came in ages ago. I'm sorry, we got so stuck into the conversation, I forgot to get it up. Big up to you, Deanie. You are always here, my man. Always supporting every single show. Love you for it, buddy. Thank you very much indeed. Josh Caress, big up to you, Josh, has said, chaps, if the club wants to sell Levy's share, why would he agree to it if he also foresees the higher future value of the club, so holds off? I guess it's the point that Connor was making, Josh, which is, if he hasn't got the funds to be able to facilitate, then something somewhere has to go, right? Something has to give. And for him to realise that future valuation, there needs to be money coming in. So ENIC have to give up 10% from somewhere. And if he doesn't have the money to be able to put it in themselves, then that might be the source of contention, essentially, that he's been gifted a hell of a lot of access to growth without actually putting in much of the financial capital behind it. And then also taking 60 million out when the people that do have the financial wherewithal haven't taken anything out. So that's probably the answer, but we're all speculating, Josh. But thank you very much for the super chat, my man. Blaine Devlin, choo to you, big Blaine. I love you, man. I hope you're okay, buddy. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Always here, always very, very generous. And you followed it up, mate, once again with 5 Spurs Talk Show memberships. Guys, tomorrow there will be, I promise you this, tomorrow there will be a fan phone-in show where we can hear everyone's thoughts about all of that jazz. I might even squeeze it in tonight after Football Inc., which is on at 8 o'clock. But in all likelihood, tomorrow. Blaine, absolute legend, mate. As always, buddy, if you have received one of those 5, then please do say thank you to Blaine. And I look forward to meeting you guys on the next show. And the Wolf has popped in as well. Big up to you, Wolfie. He says, Spurs do a 3-year deal with Stanley. yet another US tie. Stanley's the like the
Stanley knives. Yeah,
Stanley knife, those sorts of companies. Yeah, okay, right. So I never understand like these things that are announced. Like who's gonna? So is someone going to Tottenham and going? You know what? I'm glad I came for the game, but the best part of today is that I realised that I can get a 5% discount on a toolbox.
Yeah, I mean,
I never understand these sponsorship deals. They're so random, aren't they? So random.
yeah. Like, what did we have at one point? We had like paninis or something. I can't remember what it was. It was, and you think like
We've had molten brown hand soap.
it just
You know,
bizarre.
Big up to you, Wolfie, mate. Thank you very much indeed, lads. Yes. So the last sort of topic. I know, Connie, you've got to go in a second as well. But I just want to get your takes quickly. The noise out today in all of the kind of the transfer zeitgeist or whatever is that Tottenham are going to go big, go for monsters in the January, and that we are apparently working tirelessly right now to try to get ahead of any competition, and that the Savio deal is still, in Tottenham's eyes, not dead. They're still going to be working towards that one, and also Morgan Rogers. The articles that I've read have suggested that Savio would only kind of be plausible if he hasn't played any minutes between now, or very few minutes between now and January, and then he would need to obviously go ahead and put in that transfer request or request to leave that he wasn't willing to do in the summer. With regards Morgan Rogers, it's all down to Aston Villa's financial situation. They're still not out of the woods, but they're in a better shape than they were at the start of the summer. Do you think that Tottenham are going to bring in a couple of monsters or worldy? But it's January, right? January is a nightmare, 31 days. It takes... I mean, Tottenham never seem to be working on the deals in September, October, and November. They seem to think they're on holiday until January the 1st, and then they start and get things going. How do you see January windows going for us, boys? I'll start with you, Connor.
Yeah, I think if they can get one, I think that's a good outcome. You know, I think because let's be honest, January is more challenging because clubs don't want to lose players. I think Lubo does make a relevant point, which is obviously in this year with the World Cup. If Savinho is not playing, week in, week out, he might be willing to push it more in January potentially compared to how he was in the summer. And Man City might be more amenable to it as well because then they know they've only got to wait, a few months to the summer to get another signing. So, yeah, I think if one of them happens, that's a really good outcome. I think if hopefully we're more organised. I think with the Morgan Rogers one, I agree. What you were saying. I think Villa are not quite. I mean, they weren't quite as up shit creek as Chelsea in terms of the UEFA sanctions and stuff. Anyway, it was a bit softer. And to me, although because their problem's wages more so actually now, they got a bit of an issue in terms of needing to sell players. But the way and I always thought, well, relatively, was Rogers' wages that high yet anyway? Because they've only just signed him from Borough, and they'd be better off getting Martinez off which I'm surprised hasn't happened. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I think yeah, I mean we'd be absolutely over the moon, right? If you got either one of those, Rogers or Savinho, both.
Do you think we still need Rogers?
Yeah.
Well, I think if they sign Rogers, they would interchange Simmons and Rogers because Rogers plays out on the left quite often as well, and so and obviously Simmons can. So I think they'd look to do that. But
you've got Decky coming back, not in the. I mean, are we writing off Maddison? Are we saying that Maddison's time at Tottenham is basically done?
Unfortunately, I don't want to say that because I like Maddison, but I just can't see how you recover at that age from, another serious injury. But who knows? I'm not a doctor, so he might be able to.
And Decky, just quickly before I come to you, Lubo, sorry, kind of because if you do go and bring in, you've got Simmons, he's on a 7-year, right? We don't know what's going to happen with Moani, but with regards Decky, he hopefully will be back sometime around the turn of the year. I don't know. For me, I just feel like, as much as I'd love Morgan Rogers, don't get me wrong, like I think we're overloading if you had a fully fit squad that included Rogers, Simmons, Maddison, Decky, Moani, or maybe not Moani because he won't be here, but like also Kudus. I feel like you've got about 19 players there that can all do a brilliant job in the 10, but you don't have very many specialists on the left wing, and you don't have very many specialists on the right wing that are going to elevate the level, like Johnson's and the Tells, all that stuff, lower level stuff. But I'm not sure if Morgan Rogers is a specific left wing. I think he's a 10 that can play there. I think Simmons is a 10 that can play there.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think that's fair. I think that's. I mean, funnily enough, I think both of them have actually played out on the left more when you look at the games they've played. But I agree with you. In my mind, I think of both of them as being primarily 10s, not wingers. Whereas Savinho is absolutely a sort
Left
of
wing or a
old-fashioned
winger.
all right, yeah. So, I mean, Semenyo is the other one, which would be a dream, right? But
I'd love him.
I think he's eyeing up Liverpool personally. I think he's thinking, I could be Salah's
which one?
replacement.
Semenyo.
Yeah, he's so good. He's so good, isn't he? But do you think that, Lubo, is there any part of the Semenyo character that's got like that Matt Letizia syndrome? Like he's the boy at Bournemouth, right? But would he be somewhere else?
I think he'll get to a point where he probably realises how good he is, and he thinks, do you know what? I could be winning trophies. Why aren't I winning trophies? And for me, if you bought Semenyo, that would be fantastic. If you got Semenyo instead of Savinho, happy with that. You bring Rodgers in. For me, you can never have enough good players, and you've got to have a really strong squad. If ultimately we're going to start competing with the top four, we've got to have all these players.
Okay, guys. See you later.
Cheers, Connor. I appreciate you, mate. Love you, man. Thanks, buddy. See you soon.
See you, mate. We've got to have these players in, Sean. We've got to have as many top players as possible. One gets injured, another one comes in, you don't even notice it. We've got a really good squad. That's why I think, unfortunately, the Gooners are going to win it this year because I think their squad is stronger.
Nah, they ain't going to win it, mate. Nah, not for me. Not for me. I think they're going to finish third, personally.
Do you?
Yeah, I think it'll be a tight game, but I just think that Liverpool will have too much. They can win while playing badly, and I think that I don't know. I personally think that Arteta is. I'm not going to call him a fraud or anything. He's obviously very good, but I don't think he innovates his tactics too well. I think that if he's going to do the sorts of things he did on game week 2 or 3, was it, where he went to Liverpool and played for a draw essentially and tried to nullify it. I just don't think that's the sort of. I think that sort of thing gets noticed very quickly by the intelligence of other coaches, and they can adapt towards it. If he hasn't got the confidence to go toe to toe with Liverpool in an attacking outfit, then I think that will get picked off in other games. Personally,
I was told by a Gooner that the Kroenkes do stick with their coaches. So,
and mate, if he doesn't win something this year, bro, he's got to go. It's been 5 years, mate. He's had over £1 billion spent on him. You can't give the guy that much money. And him win an FA Cup that he inherited essentially. So I don't know, but for me, I look at Chelsea though, and I think that Chelsea are.
You think they're the dark horses for second place?
Yeah.
So and City fourth, or a race for fourth with?
Yeah, there's something about City. City don't seem as like they haven't got their mojo, mate. There's something about City that they've got all this talent. They're going through a massive transition, but. I don't know. There's something about after they won the Champions League and they did the 4-peat or whatever. I just felt like that was probably the right time for them to sunset Pep Guardiola. I'm not saying that Pep Guardiola is not the best in the game. Right? He's amazing. He's incredible. All these things, but I just think that once you've done that, once you've gone on that superb, incredible run of form and got all of the trophies, you saw the likes of Jack Grealish kind of put their feet up. I feel like. And maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe I'm speaking too soon because they have just gone through a massive transition. But some of the players, that Kuzanov that they bought, not impressed. Some of the youngsters, Cherky so far, not impressed. I'm not sure if it's the players that they've gone and replaced their monsters with are not yet there, or whether it's just the fact that Pep's been there so long. Sometimes, Luba, you know how it works, mate, in business. After a while, people need something new, right? You said to me 1,000 times, you've been doing your thing for a long time. You wanted something to get your teeth stuck into. After a while, you need to refresh the energy.
The beauty with United under Ferguson was that he was like, if you've got a selling business, you've got an administrator that runs everything from behind, which Fergie did, and he was there on when he had to be on match day, and he had assistant managers, stroke coaches, and he kept refreshing the coaches every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Alex Ferguson did it with his assistants, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
He did it
Steve
through his assistant.
McLaren, Brian Kidd. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 of them. Like there's
That's
a
right.
Spanish
He
guy as
really,
well.
really Mullenstein,
Yeah.
Steve McLaren.
Yeah, exactly. I listen. I'm not saying everyone that Pep coaches ends up going on to like Maresca and Arteta. They all go on to do better things. But for me, I just think that Manchester City might need a reshuffle at the top level.
So you think fourth place could be up for grabs, Sean?
No. I think the top 4 are going to finish 8 points clear of 5th, 10 points clear. I think they're so far ahead because of the resources, right? And because they're like money does eventually. Like you can fail relative to your spend, but you're still going to always succeed relative to massive disparities in that regard. So I think that those 4 teams are going to finish 10 points ahead of probably everyone else. I could be wrong, often wrong. But the order in which those 4 teams finish, for me, I think Liverpool are going to walk it. Even though I do think they've left themselves open to a problem if they get unlucky with an injury or 2 at the back. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, though, I think is wildly up for grabs. I think Chelsea could finish 2nd, but I do think Liverpool. If Liverpool can get through until January without having any problems with their defensive line, like any more problems with their defensive line, I think that they'll go again and they'll figure it out and they'll be fine. But the other 3, not sure which order it comes in. But listen, to those 4 teams, if you don't win, but you still finish in the Champions League, it's 2nd or 4th, it's the same, right? So
that's right. That's correct. And you know what? It's 5th place. You look at how Newcastle and Villa have started. And yes, it's only 3 games. I know that we're sort of 8% of the season through.
yeah.
So it's very, very young the season. But
who's your dark horses, Lubo?
Sorry?
Who are your dark horses to outperform?
Maybe Tottenham.
Yeah?
Maybe Tottenham.
Pitch me on that. Go on, tell me that. We've got 5 minutes and then we'll round off. Go on, pitch me on Tottenham's dark horse story.
If Xavi Simons manages to hit the ground running, which I'm not expecting him to, everybody looked at Florian Wirtz. It's taking him time to get used to the intensity. And if anybody saw the Micky van der Ven interview on Sky Sports at the weekend, he talked about taking time to transition from Wolfsburg from the Bundesliga into Tottenham because of the speed of everything and the intensity of our game compared to Germany. So, but if he can hit the ground pretty quickly, if Maquarie starts scoring goals, just maybe.
To what degree? Like, so the squad that we currently have, with the injuries we currently have, I think everybody got through international. Okay, I think right?
So. Yeah.
So
you need the luck, Sean, of being injury free.
Yeah, of course you do.
That is absolutely paramount. And you look at when Leicester won the league in 2016, no injuries. Chelsea a year later, hardly any injuries.
Yep.
Nothing.
Of course. Injuries, unless you have unbelievable depth, where essentially you have your 11 first teamers, but 8 of the people that can come in for for most of them are not that dissimilar. But even then, if you have multiple injuries in the same position at the same time, which is one of the kind of caveats I will give to Ange Postecoglou, that he did have to face multiple injuries to the defensive line at the same time for long periods, so it was it's problematic. But where absent that stuff, where do you? So when you say the dark horse, where would your current valuation of that squad place you? And where's the dark horse take you to? Do you think we can get 4th? You asked me the question earlier.
No,
you don't.
I think if 5th place gets you Champions League, if the coefficient works well and English teams do well in Europe this season, then we'll be back definitely with 5 clubs.
Yeah, we should be. I think it's going to be hard for the 5th place team not to. It'd be a big shit show for that not to happen.
I think in terms of outsiders coming up, that I must tell you something. I was really impressed with Bournemouth the other week.
Yeah,
I thought they looked well drilled, and again, Iraola hasn't got a massive squad. If he can keep his players relatively injury free, he doesn't have Europe either. Newcastle and United, I think there's going to be a lot of teams in the scrap. you're right. I think the top 4 will be well clear, and then there'll be a fight for 5th, and there could be 4 or 5 clubs involved quite
Oh,
easily.
for sure, 100%. I also think at the bottom, I'm really impressed with Leeds. They haven't necessarily. They've drawn. They've kept a clean sheet from 2 home games. Unusual for a newly promoted team. Sunderland looked good, but then Burnley beat them. So, Sunderland spent a lot of money. You'd imagine if they can stay up. I worry about the. It's the worst possible timing for Brentford to have their entire coaching staff decimated and to lose 2 or 3 of their big players, because the teams that have come up have done very well with their windows, and Brentford really haven't done that great in replacing players. I'm not sure about that Watara guy from Bournemouth. I don't know if he'll end up contributing enough. I think you might find 2 sort of fairly stable Premier League teams get sucked into a relegation battle. West Ham, Fulham, maybe Brentford. And then who knows what Nottingham Forest are going to be like, Lubo, under Ange. Do you think Ange is going to?
That's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. What do you think is going to happen there?
God, anything. You just wouldn't put your money on anything. They can go to Arsenal and win on Saturday. There can be this new manager.
If he goes and does his usual nonsense, having been there for 3 days, and asks everyone to do inverted fullbacks. So listen, he's got a squad that's good enough to play that style of football, but we had a squad that was good enough to play that style of football, and look what happened. Yeah. I think Marinakis has made a boo boo there. I really do. I don't know what's going on.
I'm delighted. I for me, couldn't happen to a nicer chairman.
Do you know what it was, Lubo? Right, I remember when he was just before he got sacked at Tottenham. I was saying on streams and that, I was saying, like, as much as I want him to go because I think he's a fraud, part of me wants him to stay just so that it can be confirmed that he's a fraud. Because I feel like right now he's going to walk off into the sunset with his trophy, and no one's ever going to know whether or not it was luck or skill or whatever else, right?
But you know what?
We're never going to know. But now he's back at Forest, we're going to find out, and that to me is exciting.
Well, the interesting thing is that if we had found out, then because we didn't find out, our show's not our show on a Monday and Thursday isn't an echo chamber, is it? Because
that's true.
He's still sticking to his guns there. So
yeah, listen, guys, we're gonna wrap it up there. Thank you. There's been nearly 1,000 people here for most of the show. Really cool for a Wednesday afternoon. Do get over to Spurs 5, where you can find Lubo and myself and Stel. I think Sava's back tomorrow, is he?
Sava's back tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah. Johnny's back. Oh, no, sorry. Johnny's not around. I'm not sure if Stel is. I don't think Stel's around either tomorrow, is he? Stel might be moving. I think he's moving home or flying to.
I don't know. I'll check with him.
But the Spurs 5 will be back tomorrow night, guys. Please get over to Lubo_61 on Twitter. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been around and the Super Chat crew as well. Big up to you all. There'll be a Football Inc. show at 8 p.m. Johnny's back. He's back from... Where's he been? He's been Greece, hasn't he? Corfu or somewhere.
Has it? Will he get back? Because his flight was delayed because of French air controllers.
What's France got to do with getting from Greece to London, though?
Because they've got to fly over France. That's the route they'll be taking. And if the French air controllers are not working, then you can't fly over France.
Okay. So there you go. Interesting.
I spoke to him about 5
hours. If he's not back, then we'll do it tomorrow. But the show is scheduled right now. Maybe I'll do it by myself. 8 p.m. we're there, but we're back tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Spurs 5, and you'll see me tomorrow with Bugsy out on the walkies. Massive. You say learn geography, Sean. As far as I'm aware, mate, France is south to us and Greece is east. So I don't really understand why it is we've got to fly over France to get to Greece. Let's be entirely honest, Adam.
Sean, I think they're flying into Gatwick.
Does that change the trajectory? Does it on the planes?
Possibly.
What are we doing here? What are we doing? Everyone's suddenly like an expert on.
He's going to bump into Sava. When they're waiting for their suitcases by the carousel.
I'm not convinced. Are you sure he's just not flying Air France for cheaper air miles or something? Because I can't understand why you would need to go over France to get from London to Greece. But either way, Adam, I'll learn geography when you learn flight paths. Okay, you come back and let me know, Mr. Phillips. All right, you appreciate you donut. Oh, ain't joking, buddy. Cat Fump with a late super chat. Big up to you, my man. He says, shit, I missed it again. Gonna rewind. Big up, boys. Oh, hopefully it was an interesting conversation. We went through all of the things that are going on with regards the speculation, of which there is lots. And at the moment, Lubo is very much he misses Daniel Levy, even though he's always pretended like he hasn't. He's been in the private chats. We've educated Lubo on why it was that Levy wasn't the bad guy, and he's now in and I'm now in out. You know?
You're in out now,
and you're in apparently, Lubo.
You're in out. Sean's been in out. Sean's joining Change for Tottenham. He's going to be the organiser. You'll see him on Twitter in collaboration. Spurs Talk Show and Change for Tottenham.
Well, actually, speaking of which, I'm going to get Billy T back on this week to let us know what their intentions are. Appreciate you all, guys.
It's going to be a brainstorming podcast. You're strategizing.
Every Spurs Talk Show is a brainstorming podcast, my man. That's what we do here. We like to do thought experiments. Appreciate you all. Love everyone, and I'll see you later on. As always, come on, you Spurs.